We're good. We're live.
Here we go.
Finally. We've been waiting for this time.
It's been a while.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. It's yet to be named, but that's because we're more worried about action than captions, word to Drake. So today we're going to get into it. We're going to keep it easy. We're just going to be talking about introductions, what you can expect on this podcast, who we are, and kind of what's going to come up over the next few months or however long we do this. It's Saturday morning. I'm in Nottingham. Suneet's in Manchester. It's
Right.
rainy as ever in England. But let's get into it. Suneet, who are you? We want to know you. You look like you've got an air traffic control shift after this.
Well,
But
let's address the elephant in the room, okay? I've got an awful mic, okay? First of all, I'm not Ryan. This is definitely Ryan's lane: podcasting, vlogging, videoing, YouTube. He's got the mic. He's got the setup. I've got my work mic. That's what I've got. I've got my work mic and I've got my work laptop. That's as good as I can get. But we've got a little something coming in the future. I've got a new mic coming. It's not going to be forever, and just gonna have to get used to this on my head for the rest of the podcast. But yeah, I go by the name of Suneet Kashyap. We've known Ryan for how long now? Almost a decade.
damn,
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. Actually, it's almost 10 years. I met you when I was
that's
16.
crazy.
Yeah. So,
How did we meet? That's the...
well, I think to be fair, I think how we met and our friendship actually is a good indicator of why we're doing this podcast, and I'll tell you
Mhm.
why. Because me and
Tell me.
Ryan obviously met almost 10 years ago in college. We both just left school, went to a new college, met, and I actually only was at that college for 1 year.
I know. I was thinking about this the other day, and it's funny because, and I'm also just going to kind of translate to my American friends listening that college in England is the gap between finishing high school, because we finish high school at 16 in England, and university at 18. So for 2 years, you can either stay at a sixth form college that can be, you know, at a school, or it can be an individual college. So me and Suneet both went to a college which was 2 year program. But I was the only one who stuck it out with me and Alves.
Yeah, I
Everyone
know.
else went and ditched
Well,
me.
I mean, to put it simply, I flopped. I badly failed my maths examination. And I was like, no, there's no way I'm taking this grade on with me. So I had to leave basically. I was forced out because I couldn't do exams. But obviously, I smoothed it over when I went back to my school in the sixth one. But yeah, so basically, going back to my previous point, is that we know each other for a year through college. Then I went back to a different school. You stayed on for another year. And technically, ever since then, our friendship has basically just been one long catch up, hasn't it? All we do is because for the majority of our friendship, we've been in, first of all, different countries,
Yeah,
different continents.
yeah.
So all we had during, because you were at uni for how long in America? 4 years, 5
Fi-
years?
4 years, and then I worked. Yes, I was in there. I was in America for 5 years, but that one long catch up, I love that.
Yeah,
That's true though, because so I came to Bilborough, the college that we were at, and my initial introduction to you was through Cuda,
yeah,
because
yeah,
Cuda was in my form, and
yeah,
because I was one of the only people from my school who had gone to this college, so I was kind of like, okay, I'm in a new environment here. I'm trying to get some friends, I'm trying to know people. I'm trying to expand, and then Cuda kind of introduced me to your group and all of you. And that first year, we were just getting to know each other. But like you said, it was the year after. It was since we were separated. Sounds weird, but since we were kind of separated, that we've then kept in touch and like, oh, we actually have the same interest. We're actually thinking the same mindset, and so it's just like one thing to another thing to another thing, and here we are.
yeah,
10 years
100,
later.
100%. Because it's like, realistically, we didn't have to stay friends. There was nothing really. There was nothing for us really to hold us to stay friends. Like I said, we knew each other for a year. We obviously got on very well during that year. We were in the same friendship group at college, but it was a year, and then I had left. So normally, like most people in life, like only if at that age as well, at that age when you're in your late teens, you're going to be going to university and doing stuff in your life anyway. You don't really make new friends in that period because you're moving. When you go to uni, you will do. But in
Yeah,
that brief period between like college and university, it's like it's your friends from school. Normally,
Yeah.
it's your friends from school, you hold on to those, and then you go to university. But to make a new friend in that period, and not only that, it's an even shorter period considering I left after a year, and then to actually hold on to that friend was mind blowing. I remember I told you a few years back, I was like, I don't understand how we've done this. How have we kept in contact? Because I knew we were in the same college for a year. I then left. Then after that second year that I had gone to college, you were in America the year after.
Yeah.
You were in America for 3-4 years, and you used to literally come home at Christmas or summer every year, twice. Twice a year we'd see each other.
Exactly.
Biannual link ups, and somehow
The point is great, and the thing is with all that, you're saying that brief period within that 2 years, like, oh god, or even that one year, how'd you make your friend? But if you think about it, like we're both from Nottingham, just so we're both from Nottingham, and we've gone to school, we've been in an environment where, we've not chosen our friends. When you've gone to primary school, you've gone to secondary school, and the people you're hanging around with are those friends. Suddenly you're starting to go in environments that are different. So college is a different environment. You chose to go to college, like you choose to go to university, and in those places you're starting to get out of this system in which decisions are being made for you. And I think here you start to make and choose friends, and I think it's so powerful. I think this speaks to a wider range of things, right? In that there's different instances in my life as well, in where I've known people, and I've started to become friends with them after the fact of a situation, or something's happened which is really short, but for some reason our friendship feels really strong, just because that experience that was shared was something that we've done together, as opposed to just feeling like we're in the same place and we should be friends.
100%. I feel like with me and you as well, even though it was only a brief period of time at that college, I think it was very early off the bat. We were like, okay, yeah, this is my guy.
Yeah.
This is like, we had too much interest. It was the conversation was too easy. The banter, the jokes, everything was just too comfortable for us to be like, well, like, I think we just knew. And that's why just naturally, as the years were on, we were just always interested to know what was going on in each other's lives. Even when you went to America, it wasn't ever like, it didn't ever feel like we were out of each other's lives, even though we obviously were. It just felt like, oh yeah, he's in America, I'll see him in 6 months.
Well, that's how I think, like where we are now. I mean, we're both 26. We're in the working world now. We're in these scheduled routines of 9 to 5s. That gap between that school life or uni life and those kind of friends in which you're living in an environment with friends every single day, it starts to separate. So the people who you're actually keeping in contact with, keeping up with, you start to realize, oh, these are actually my friends. These are actually the people that I relate with. But we throw it back. Let's just throw it back all the way back to some of those early experiences. The Drake concert. Go to see Big Sean. Those are the kind of things that's like, okay, we're on the same wavelength here. We understand who's the greatest of all time. Oh, we won't get to those conversations just yet. But just saying, And so it is interesting. But again, I want to go back into introductions a bit more. Who are you, Suneet? Like, what is your background?
Well, yeah, okay. So, like Ryan said, I'm from Nottingham born and raised. Yeah,
and your family background, because people want to know who.
Well, obviously, I'm, as you can tell probably by the color of my skin, I'm Indian heritage. So, grew up in an Indian family, traditional, all about family, all about just being together, doing things together, doing things as a unit, pretty much throughout my childhood. Grew up in Nottingham, in the mean streets of Nottingham. I wasn't in the high Wilford area like Ryan was.
Oh, that's not high area.
But yeah, I grew up in Nottingham. Just a very standard, normal life, to be honest. I went through school, a couple of primary schools. I mean, only went to a second primary school because my brother moved to secondary school, so I wanted to be close to him. Normal school, came through school normally. Just a normal guy, like sports, like music, like TV, Netflix, all that. Or Netflix came later, but just like watching TV, like just making jokes. That's all it was really that grew us together. Just being normal guys, really. Isn't it? There's nothing really crazy or out there.
But then, what are you doing now as well in your life?
So I went through uni, did a politics degree at uni. I like politics, but I was never going to get into that. And then swiftly, about a year after uni, moved to Manchester. So now I live in Manchester, away from Ryan in Nottingham, and I'm working in accountancy pretty much. So it's not exactly the most exciting life.
But you're grinding.
Listen, I'm grinding, just trying to make a living, out here trying to be a success.
Oh, I know, success. That's another topic that we're going to get into in the months to come and the weeks to come. But for those who don't know me, I'm Ryan and Ejezie. Also raised in Nottingham, not born in Nottingham, born in Italy. So
you had to get that in there, didn't you? I'm
getting it. I'm half English, I'm half Nigerian. Went through secondary school, primary school, and college, English college in Nottingham. Then went to America for a few years.
You should probably explain what primary and secondary schools are to the American viewing, innit? Because they won't understand that, will they?
Secondary school is high school. We don't have middle school. And then primary school is kind of like, theirs is a bit tiered differently, but the primary school, you get it, it's when you're young.
Yeah.
Let's just stay with that. But I went to America for 5 years, did business degree, played football, won the scholarship. That's how I went there. And then I worked for a year after. And then my visa ran out. Time to come home. Had a girlfriend that's still out there, my now fiance. So that was an interesting situation. But came back to England. I still had, interest of, I felt like I had unfinished business in England. There's still things I wanted to do. I wanted to go and live in London. I wanted to have different experience. So I came back and I ended up moving to London for a period of time for a company. I work in advertising or healthcare comms, depending on if you want to get into it. But I still work for that company, but due to the COVID thing, we're working completely remote. So I was like, let me get home. Let me save some money. Let me not just be in a box room all day long. And so, yeah.
Stuck in Manchester.
Yeah, well, I still am here, sitting in this room all day long on Zoom meetings. But that's just a bit background of me and you. So let's just get into a bit of the topics that we want to discuss on this, because we've already teased a few.
Yeah. Well, I think firstly, we should, in order to introduce the topics, we should talk about who we are as friends. So we briefly mentioned what our friendship is based about. But like I said, the majority of our friendship has been based around catch-ups. Biannual catch-ups every 6 months, just talking about everything, life, okay? And what comes with that is debates. A lot of debates, okay? Ever since we first met back in college with the college crew, we used to go after school, cookie shake, little milkshake floor, and just hours just at each other's throats debating. So that would lead nicely into some of the topics that we're going to discuss.
No, that is a great point, because that's the thing that I like. How often in our daily lives are we having conversations which are actually stimulating? We go through work and we're talking about this timelines, or talking about whatever we've got in our work life. We talk about what we're doing on the weekend. We catch up and maybe we're just having little conversations about football or something. But how often are you like having a conversation which like, let me get into this, let me discuss this, let's have that kind of back and forth? And that's how every single conversation we have. Maybe that's because we have distance between we talk, but every time it's like, no, this is this because no, I've listened to this podcast and this person is right or wrong. So yeah, that's a great point there. But I think the topics we're going to cover this podcast, this first one, is going to kind of keep short because you don't want to get into it too much. But we're both very success driven, and I think we openly talk about that to each other. And I think that's an important thing. So definitely the areas that we're going to speak about are our working lives, in a sense, and what it means to think about that stuff and try and be successful, or try and openly speak about that stuff.
Well, I think there's always a point in our conversations where we get to that sort of topic, and we just discuss what are we doing differently from our last conversation. That is a typical conversation, though, isn't it? What are you doing now that you weren't doing in our last conversation? And if you're not doing anything, why not? Because obviously a lot of the time we're just trying to push each other, trying to motivate each other to actually be doers. One thing that is a difference between me and Ryan is that Ryan is very much a doer. And perfect example of that is this podcast. Ryan told me about this podcast, I want to say 3 or 4 days ago. When did you actually, I can get the DM up of the actual date of when you sent me this. It must have been about
Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't know.
Tuesday or Wednesday. I think we had a phone call maybe on Monday, where we were just catching up and spoke to
Yeah.
And then he told me on Tuesday, do you want to do a podcast? And here we are 4 days later. Now, that is a doer. Me, on the other hand, I read that message of Ryan. Okay, do you want to do a podcast? And I'm thinking, yeah, nice idea. Yeah, I even said back to you, yeah, sounds good. Sounds great. In my head, I'm thinking, this is not going to happen. 4 or 5 months, you might talk about it again. And then eventually it's going to fizzle out into whatever. That's my thing. It's a great, it's a nice idea. It's a nice thought, Ryan. It's cute that you're thinking in that line. I appreciate it. Of course, it'll be a great idea. But I'm not a doer. So I'm the kind of guy who's thinking, no, that's not going to happen. Whereas you're a doer. And that's why I feel like naturally through our conversations, we always get to that point where we're trying to push each other. And it stems normally from you. And then slowly over the course of our friendship, I've now gotten onto that idea of, you know what, I need to be doing stuff. I need to be keeping busy. So yeah, that's a good topic.
No, it's a good point. But I think like we're going to dive into those kind of topics more specifically in different podcasts. But it's interesting how I think there's always different areas in our lives in which we're doers or in which we, can excel in or can get active on. So I'm really interested to start talking about all of that. But along with that, and what are some of our most heated debates, around culture, I'd say.
Yeah.
What today's culture in terms of music, in terms of what you're seeing on your TV screens, sports, those kind of things as well. Because you've got to have an opinion at the end of the day. Don't go through this life without opinion. And let me tell you, Suneet has an opinion.
100%. Listen, at the end of the day, as long as you could listen, I did a politics degree, which the 90% of seminars were people debating. Now, if any random person, right, was to walk into one of my seminar rooms, you may think we're arguing in there. You may think we're going at it. But that's not the case at all. We're literally being pushed by the seminar leader to debate, to have an opinion. There's nothing wrong with showing an opinion, as long as you can respect other people's opinions and respect what they have to say. You might not agree with it. Often we don't agree with what we're saying, but we respect each other's opinions and we have an opinion. And yeah, when it comes to culture, when it comes to music, when it comes to sport, there's some opinions there. People might not like our opinions. People might have their own opinions. So feel free to share them. But yeah, definitely, that is probably going to be a major stay of these podcasts, I'd say.
Exactly. I think that's kind of what you can expect in the upcoming weeks and the upcoming months of what we're going to do. And hopefully this will be a weekly podcast. We'll be sharing it on a day to be determined, about that action, not about those captions. So it's coming. We're figuring out each piece, but stay tuned. We're getting there. We're at the end of this first podcast now. You've got a bit of introductions, a bit about who we are. Suneet, is there anything else before we kind of start to wrap this up that you just want to discuss before?
I'd just say the final point is people might be thinking, why the hell are you doing a podcast? They've heard about us, they've heard about who we are, but why the hell do we want to do this? And for me, the simple answer is why not? We are in a world right now where there is literally nothing better to do. We are in lockdown for another 3 weeks. Who knows how long this pandemic is going to go on for? We have nothing better to do. And we like to talk. That's all we do. That is what our friendship's been all about. We just chat. So why not just record it? record our conversations and see what happens with them.
No, absolutely. I think why not is the perfect answer. We're in lockdown, just so you know, we're in England. Lockdown is set to end in the start of December. We're at the start of November right now. And for me, one of the big reasons for doing this is, one, our conversations are always great.
Yeah.
And two, I want to have these conversations more often. Like I was saying, too much of my days are filled with meaningless conversations of just this and that. These are the conversations I get excited about and that I want to talk about. And I think that you as a listener will also get interested in. And that's where, following these podcasts, we want to have some interaction. It doesn't need to be, you know, coming on to a podcast, but it can be just talking to us directly, like, oh yeah, I listened to this, and oh, let's talk about this. My opinion's different. And I think when you're having those type of conversations in life, those conversations that bring excitement, that's when you start to feel more sense of purpose, or, you know, you feel like you're interacting with people, you feel like you have a community in which you can talk and get excited about. And that's what I want to bring in into this unknown name podcast.
And, and also, we're not the only two within our friendship groups who like to debate. So the early listeners, our early friends who will be listening, we know they're going to enjoy these, and we know they're going to get involved.
Absolutely.
So, know your friends from the States, your friends from back here, my friends from here. We're all the same. The conversations we're going to be having, they are definitely going to want to get involved with. So again, it's for the people too. We're doing it for the people. We're doing it for the people.
Public servants.
Exactly.
All right then. I think this is a great first introduction. So for anyone listening, thank you, Suneet. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely a pleasure, my friend. Really enjoyed it.
And we'll get this one out, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
Cheers.